Welcome to the 3D Ghost universe, a place dedicated to 3D creation and 3D printing. A 3D print object can be great after the printing, and sometimes you will need some post-processing for decorations, improvement, or sometime for repairing a damaged print. Disclaimer: in this video you will see a lot of huge, ugly prints. It's simply because I use all those dead creation to illustrate my points on post-processing. Here you can see my working space. It's a small desk that I made. It's a 1 by 0.8 meters, and I had this cube for plugs and a USB, plus this clamp lamp with a magnifying glass. And the desk is protected with a huge mousepad. At first, we will talk about what I call decorative post-processing. And my first recommendation will be to always wear glasses in order to protect your eyes. Your first action will probably to sand the object in order to remove the extra PLA after the print or after removing the supports of the object, for example. For this kind of operation, a rotary tool is a great tool, but you can also do it with sandpaper, sponge sandpaper. You can have precision lime or fight, I don't know the word exact in English, and of course you will have the help of a knife for trimming, for example. If you are working with multi-parts object, you may have to glue them after the sanding. For having the best result and a quick result with gluing, I'm using super glue for multi-material or especially for plastic, and I'm using small clamps in order to avoid any movement, any bad movement for the two objects that I try to glue. If I want to have brush painting on my object, I will have to prepare it a little bit. So I'm creating a little support for the object with my rotary tool, and then I'm ready to apply a primer spray on the object because I don't want to have many layers of paint. After the primer, after the preparation, I can work on the object with a brush and painting. I'm working with acrylic paint. It's good paint in order to have a clean object, but you have to know that it will be difficult for the first layer to, even with a primer, to have a good layer, so you will have to repeat the operation. And if you don't want to lose your time by waiting for the drying, you can use a heat gun in order to speed up a little bit the process. If, like myself, you are not a great artist with the brushes, you can use acrylic paint markers. This is really easy, this is good, and you will not need any primer. And the other great thing is that you can find easily empty marker that you will be able to fill with your own colors after doing your mixing with your acrylic paint in tube. The other easy and great way to print your creation will be to use spray painting. It's really easy, you will not need any primer and it will cover everything. But you will have to be careful if you are working with precision model because of course it will add an extra layer on the object. After your printing job, if you want to keep a good object, a good aspect with the colors, you will have to work a little bit with varnish, a matte one or a glossy one, depending on the aspect you want to give to your object. And if you want to add an extra aspect, funny aspect to your object, you can add mica powder to the varnish. And then you will be able to create some effects, metallic effects, glossy effect. And in this example, I try to give a nasty aspect to the ghost. It's a golden ghost, but we can imagine that he is working on the junk, for example. And to be honest, it's a quick work, but I like the result. The last decorative advice that I want to share with you is about hot glue gun. Of course, I think you know what is a hot glue gun, but maybe you didn't know that you can find some funny stick with sparkling and color inside. Just take a look at this horrible creation. I know it's horrible, it was just one demonstration, but you can see that with the glue you can join or you can infill some part of the object and you can have a very cool aspect. But for creating this aspect, sometimes it's really difficult and painful to work with the trigger of the gun. I tried two different models, but it was always the same problem. So my advice for you will be to not using the trigger, but to push the stick with another stick like you can see on the screen. Then you will have the correct amount of glue in order to work properly, and you can even use the glue like if it was wax with a seal, for example. And finally, my last advice will be if you want to change the stick, you just have to use a drill bit inside and you will be able to remove it. An iron soldering tool can be very useful for fixing and repairing your 3D prints. For example, after gluing two parts, you can melt the plastic in order to create a junction between the two parts. And with a little bit of sanding and painting, it will be an invincible junction. If you accidentally broke your 3D object or if your printer missed a part, you will be able with the iron soldering tool to glue two parts together. After a dirty print, you can also try to smooth a little bit your object in order to prepare it for sanding and painting. You can fix some very bad prints with this solution, but of course you will need a post-processing with sanding and painting. And finally, if you need to create a hole, it will be quite easy. I tried to work on PLA with a wood burning tool, and to be honest, the result is far from what you have on the wood. The heat is destroying the plastic and you will have some hairs, so it will not be a good solution if you want to tattoo your object with symbol. But you can find a way to use a wood burning tool instead of the iron soldering, for example, if you want to cut some parts of your object to separate them, or if you want to create little cuts on your object like drawing or writing things. If you are an artist, you can create some amazing things with a 3D pen. Personally, I'm not an artist, and what I'm doing with my 3D pen is repairing some default on some printing. Of course, it's not for decorative object, it's more for useful object, but you can find a way to fill some hole, for example, and it could be a good tool in order to fix some problems after your printing. A blowtorch for kitchening, for example, is a powerful tool, but you will have to take it very carefully, because first you can burn yourself, you can destroy your creation by burning them, but you will be able to deform the object if you are working with the good timing and the good distance. If you already use a hair duster, you probably know that it's easy to have a really cold spray by putting it upside down. So when you combine the blowtorch and the hair duster with a cold hair, you will be able to easily have a quick deformation that will be definitive. But if you want to work safely, I highly recommend you to work with a heat gun. It's easier, it's safer, and you will be able to work on deformation. It will be safer for you and for your object. And we already talked about it, but of course a heat gun is a good way to dry paint. And finally, I want to share with you the fact that you can create a cool effect, a cool thing with a heat gun. After printing a thick plan, for example, you will be able to have a really nice wrap aspect with your heat gun.